You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoe In Show. Thanks for joining us. Matt, there's so many dynamic things happening out there. You know, we focus a lot on supply chain stuff because that's where all the pain points are.
Yeah, check.
But we also focus a lot on consumer shifts. Obviously on this show, we focus on everything related to footwear. But there's also, despite a lot of challenges, there's a lot of things changing and a lot of exciting things happening around new product types, new innovations that are occurring. And because of that, I think it behooves us to bring back one of our favorite footwear innovators who's been on this show before, no stranger to Shoe In Show, Stuart Jenkins, who many people may know from his time at Deckers or Shoes for Crews, but also has been out on his own now for a little bit, creating new types of products for footwear companies. Most people may know him from his post on LinkedIn. Blumaka is his company right now, and some of the things he's doing.
Coolest name in the industry, Blumaka.
Exactly. But Stuart, welcome back. Well, welcome back to Shoe In Show. Thanks for joining us. Right off the bat, when you're looking at all the things that are changing in the footwear industry around product, what are some things that come to mind around innovations and challenges that you see right now?
Well, because of my company, Blumaka, I have to say I'm so aware of the efforts that should be applauded, commended. The industry is really trying to clean up its act, if you will. Use less resources, be more thoughtful about the resources it's using, use less resources, make better product, but make it in a more ethical manner. And so I think that the industry's attention to this is really to be commended, and I think it's necessary. It's going to be a requirement. I was on a college campus the other day working with some, I would call them world-class athletes. And they wanted to know about our product, Blumaka, but they also wanted to know how we made our product. And without prompting, the word that one young man used was, Blumaka is ethical. And he didn't say sustainable. He didn't say made from recycled materials. He didn't say, bio. He said ethical. And I thought that was a window into the soul of the young generation, the people that are coming up. And I believe that the industry has to respond to that. And I think the industry is trying to respond to that. And Blumaka is kind of at the center of that. We're trying to give the industry the choice between clean foam and dirty foam. You're never going to make a shoe that is ethical unless we figure out how to make foam in a much cleaner, better way.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we've seen over the past several years is a lot of adoption for material uppers. It seems like there's a lot of commercialization around that. You can choose more environmentally preferred materials around uppers that execute well, perform well. I think the challenges that we have as an industry, and even when we talk about it to different people, is the performance aspect of footwear, a person putting their foot down and walking, the shoe, bottom, midsole, especially now with casualization, the foam so prevalent of making a product that's ethical or sustainable around the foam aspect is very hard. Why is that? Why is it so hard when we think about foam or the midsole, outsole to get it to make commercially viable product, just like we see with uppers? Why is there so few options that we're looking at?
Well, boy, you've kind of opened a whole can there. I think number one, you have to remember we use the word foam, but foam is just a fancy word for plastic. And it's an expanded plastic. And unlike a water bottle, that you can melt down and refabricate easily, that foam is expanded. So these multiple components or these multiple pieces of chemistry have morphed into something new, so you cannot take them back to their original chemical ingredients easily. So you're dealing with plastic, and that's the thing you have to remember, expanded plastic. Number two, supply chain. Over the last 50 years, we have built a supply chain around making foam plastic in a dirty, nasty way. So the entire supply chain has been set up to fabricate foam in this manner that is like a 1950 automotive plant. It's a lot of tooling. It's a lot of wasted water. It's a lot of wasted energy. It's a lot of wasted steel. And so the fabrication of the cushioning component has to go through this entire process that was really set up when ethical manufacturing, light carbon footprint wasn't considered. And, the industry is sort of like a drunk on a binge. I mean, we know it's bad for us. We don't want to do it, but we haven't yet, the industry as a whole hasn't found a way to solve that problem. And, that's what we're about. I mean, we're simply taking the foam that companies are making already and throwing out the back door. There are millions and millions of metric tons of high quality foam that the footwear companies are producing but are not using. They're trimming it off. They have, it might be, ends. They've overrun it. There's sprues from injection molding foam, but there's nothing wrong with that foam. And so at Blumaka, we're dedicated to recycling it or upcycling it into great product. And so the industry really has this challenge because the biggest encumbrance to change is the supply chain is set up to do things in one way, which is to make dirty foam. And while the industry would love to have clean foam, none of them own factories. So they have to convince their factory suppliers to change everything they're doing. And that is hard. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because nothing is set up to do it. I mean, there's a reason that pioneers, get free land and become dead quickly in the frontier.
Well, with that in mind, Stuart, let's talk about kind of the cultural aspects of the industry that preclude it from doing the things necessary to move in an ethical direction, quote, to use your phrase. And I've seen you talk about this before, and you help kind of develop these cultures and these brands to think about innovation and be investing in new technologies and throwing stuff against the wall as best you can to try to figure out. But I mean, if you're trying to kind of continue on selling shoes and making shoes, and you're kind of maintaining this infrastructure that has, for all intents and purposes, has been successful, right? It has delivered billions of pairs of shoes to people who want to buy those shoes in an efficient way. But you're trying to shift gears and figure out a new way to do that in this ethical way. How do you do that on the fly? It's like the world's most difficult baton handoff in a relay race. And chances are you're going to drop the baton. So how do you advise companies to critically think in the ways that you're suggesting, while at the same time not kind of doing themselves in on their day jobs and ensuring that they're still profitable, they're still selling shoes, and they're still driving great product to consumers?
Well, that is an insightful question. I don't think any of us have the perfect answer to that question. However, I believe that you have to put your hat on and say, I'm going to look out here 5 years, because what we can accomplish in 5 years is normally underestimated, and what you think you can do in one season is overestimated. And so think in terms of a 5, 6, 7 year horizon, not a next season horizon, not what is going to be your marketing headline next week in the local trade pub. And then I'm not suggesting, and I don't think the industry can handle saying, okay, next year, next season, all of our products are going to be made from clean foam from Blumaka. Do I think every footwear brand should use recycled Blumaka foam for all of their product? No. But you have to take your line and say, look, we're making high performance athletic shoes that are designed to run a 2.5 hour marathon or a 2:10 marathon, but we're also making recovery slides and flip flops and hiking shoes and casual shoes. And to use virgin foam to make casual shoes, flip flops, slides, sports sandals, hiking boots, work boots is professional and environmental malpractice. So pick part of your line and say, this year we're going to use recycled foams for 10% of our midsole line. Next year it's going to be 20%. The next year it's going to be 30%. The next year it's going to be 50%. There may indeed be places where you can use virgin foam, or you need to if you're trying to run that 2-hour marathon. But when you're walking down to Starbucks to get a cup of coffee and you want to look cool, the requirement for virgin foam is 0. Because, with Blumaka foam, Blumaka recycled foam, you're going to get every bit the comfort. You're going to get the durometer you want, the softness you want. It's going to last as long, probably longer. So use what we have, and this also goes against the marketing people, where they want to say, well, we have the magic answer. We've come up with this foam that, talks to you and floats away at the end of the thing and produces oxygen at the end of its life. Start and do something positive now, and don't try to say, well, we've come up with the perfect answer. Blumaka isn't perfect. We're using 85% recycled content by volume. We still have to use some virgin foam. What we're doing is we're replacing a whole bunch of that plastic by using what we have. And, trash is the enemy, right? Trash is the Death Star to our planet. It's the Death Star to his people. So clean up what you have. If you're producing millions of metric tons of foam waste, it is your ethical obligation. It is your responsibility as a citizen. It is your responsibility of a brand to use it.
Matt, I think here we can add too just a quick sidebar about the shoe waste program FRA has been running, and maybe you can quickly just speak to that, because it's the same thing that Stuart's talking about. It's taking the waste out of the factory that's excess and trying to find a way to keep it out of landfills in China and Vietnam.
Yeah, we started off 2 or 3 years ago, Stuart, and we created a pilot program on factories in southern provinces of China, with the expectation that if we just train the factories on how to sort their shoe waste, and then we connected them with recyclers in the area, that they could have pour me one while you're at it, dude. We could create an ROI that's returned in the first year, and our goal was to reduce waste to landfill and incineration by 25%. And our pilot program, which was 26 different factories, we reduced it in year 1 by 40%. And the factories, which was a $5,000 buy-in, all got their money back within the first year easily. And so we're now about to enter year 3. We're expanding into Vietnam. We're opening up to apparel. And it was kind of small, pragmatic steps to really just point the factories in the right direction, connect them with the right people, and set standards before them to adopt. And of all the stuff, and this really well, of all the stuff that brands push down on the factories and ask them to do, that the factories kind of roll their eyes at and struggle with, this one actually we've gotten really positive feedback around. So to your point, there are small steps and options and pragmatic things behind the scenes that aren't sexy, that aren't part of the marketing play that you hear from our marketing friends, that are really having a big impact. Blumaka is one of those things. Shoe waste program is one of those things. And I think each brand should try to figure out what that thing is and try to go after it.
Well, this that's a beautiful example of doing the right thing. And, we can talk about our high-mindedness and our ethical principles. And I've never met anybody that doesn't want to do the right thing. But, we are capitalists, all of us. The footwear industry is filled with capitalists. And I will tell you though, it is rare that I do not get a question within the first 5 minutes of a meeting with a footwear brand of, yeah, but how much does it cost? Because we want to do the right thing. We just don't want it to cost any more. And that's a natural reaction. But that has put a lot of pressure on those of us that are trying to build products that are designed to make you comfortable, but also make your conscience clear, right? Nobody's buying a Tesla for the same price that they're buying a combustion engine car. Mm-hmm. And yet, if we really want to clean up the planet, we've got to create manufacturing processes that can make shoes that work at the leading brands and also at Walmart and Payless, because Walmart and Payless and Target sell more shoes than any brand on the planet, right? Right. So we have to make it affordable while we're making it ethically. And we're still in that pinch, right? We're in this early adopter stage where some of these technologies are a little more expensive. I think, Blumaka, we want to be a premium foam. We don't want to be outrageously expensive. But the brands, I believe, and I think they're learning this, is that when they do the right thing and they tell the customer the truth about it, they don't make these overly general, sustainable, bio, recyclable, all of these words that mean nothing. When they're specific about it, Blumaka, we want to be specific. 85% recycled foam content by volume. That is very specific. You know what you're getting. But when you tell me, my shoe's made of bio content. Well, how much bio content? 1%, 10%, 2%. By the way, 10% is great if you're making 1 billion shoes and 10% of that is bio content. Good for you. Get on the podium, take a lap. Now, next year, I expect you to do 15%. The next year, I expect you to do 20%. So it's this is where I think we've got the marketing out ahead of the action. And that's always going to be the case. But we need to be careful, because when the consumers catch up to people that are saying we're sustainable because we have a foam midsole that has 11% content that's sustainable, I don't think that's... Yeah, I'm just waiting for the footwear brand that makes leather work boots saying, "Hey, we make bio-based work boots because they're leather." It's true, but it's misleading as hell.
Right.
Yet in the foam business, we have people saying those things all of the time.
We did a survey of all the footwear workers in the industry. We do a benchmark survey every year to see where the industry is improving upon, where they're having challenges, and it allows the workers to really sound off. And we asked some really interesting questions about what they're hearing from the C-suite versus what they're actually doing, right? Measuring and adjusting. And one of those things that we asked was around, how would you measure the overall industry in terms of living up to the marketing hype of sustainability? And I think it was, I don't know whether it was right or wrong, or whether it's generous or not, but it was only 60%. So 6 in 10 workers said, it's close. It's, it was only 60% saying we don't think that it's really living up to the hype. So that's the challenge, is the number should be much higher than that if the marketing's matching the execution. And I guess my question to you is, you're talking about the supply chain and retooling it and figuring out a new way forward. As you've developed your product, and obviously you're using a completely different way of making what you're doing, what are some lessons that you've learned as you've gone through the process to figure it out to make your product in a completely different, more environmentally friendly way.
It's not always easy to do the right thing. And it takes leaders who adopt new technologies, a willingness to go through some tough times to break through all of the condoms of no that the supply chain has erected. So it is easy for the industry, and it's easy for consumer product brands to talk about what a product is made of, because that's kind of sexy. We're made from, super duper flubber. But the real key to sustainability, I've used the word, the real key to making ethical foam is changing how it's made, not what it's made from. The how is more important than the what. When you talk about the carbon footprint of foam, 1/3 of it comes from the material, 2/3 come from the manufacturing process. And yet, when I say Blumaka has a carbon... I'm sorry. I swear I have this thing.
No worries. There's a new order coming in. You better pick it up.
Yeah. Jeez. I am so sorry.
Okay, just pick it back up from where you were. We'll stitch it together.
Okay. Where was I now that I...
You were just talking about 2/3 of the carbon.
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to manufacturing foam for footwear, 2/3 of the carbon footprint comes from the manufacturing process. 1/3 comes from the material that you use. Yet all of the marketing, all of the language we share with the consumer is about what we make it from and not how we make it. So in Blumaka, I've got this is my reminder. I've got this gallon jug on my desk. This is how much water we use to make a foam midsole for the athletic footwear industry. So 12 million athletic shoes consume 11 billion gallons of water. They pollute it or waste it. At Blumaka, I have this tablespoon. That's how much water we consume to make a Blumaka midsole. So if every sole was made like Blumaka with this new manufacturing process, we would save 10.8 billion gallons of water a year. That is enough water for the entire country of Brazil to drink for a year. So it's okay, carbon footprint. We're lowering carbon footprint. We're reporting on carbon footprint. But if we're going to be making foam ethically, we have to say, well, how much water did we consume? And that should be reported. We have to say, how many millions of tons of foam waste did we throw out the back door of our factories? And what did we do with it? We have to think about the how, and we have to make the how important. Otherwise, the consumer is going to get misled. I mean, we could take a magic foam that's 100% biodegradable, made from thin air, and run it through the existing manufacturing process, and it would be like swimming laps at the local sewage treatment plant. You're getting exercise, but it's going to kill you sooner or later. So we have to run ethical materials through a ethical production system, and changing that complex, changing the footwear foam manufacturing complex is hard. And I will tell you, during COVID, I have had to build my own factory. I built a factory in China. It has been tough. And the partners that have worked with us, they have been patient. They have been understanding, because trying to build a factory to do foam in a completely new way during COVID, where you can't travel, it's like operating a 6,000-mile screwdriver with a kink in it in the dark with a hood on. You turn it and you don't know what the hell is going to happen over there. And
I don't even know what you just said, but it sounds crazy.
And so this is a particularly timed. Well, it would take a crazy person to do it, wouldn't it? And we're right now building a factory down in Central America. You're always talking about coffee, so I brought some Central American coffee back with me. And
nice.
Cheers to
which country?
I'm going to set up a factory in El Salvador. We found a facility down there, believe it or not, Matt, and that's 100% powered by solar energy, on-site healthcare clinic. They're treating, they can treat up to 400 people a day. Everybody got free COVID vaccinations. I went through the prenatal care, they're about, it was really heartening to see. Duty free in and out,
Yep.
3 days shipping from Miami, 3 days shipping from Los Angeles, 6 days trucking from Texas. But why Central America? Why in this hemisphere? Because if we're going to loop product back, take old sandals, shoes, and flip-flops and convert them into new footwear components and products, you can't ship waste back to China. So if you're going to build a supply chain that is ethical, if you're going to build a supply chain that meets the need of the consumer today, where they don't want to they don't want to go to the Death Star of the landfill immediately, you have to have a supply chain that is responsive to what the consumers want. And again, not every shoe component is going to be made in Central America, but if you're making flip-flops and sandals and you want them to be high content loop product or circular content or circular and recycled content, you're going to have to do that in the local market, in the local hemisphere. And I believe that telling that story to the customer, truthfully, telling that story authentically to the customer is going to win. But when we at some point, the customer is going to wake up and go, wait a minute, I'm using a fictitious example, calling a leather boot bio-based is not what we had in mind when we were asking you to do better, to be better.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of work to be done, but again, as Stuart said, there is progress being made. It's just that we need to be more wise about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then how we're accurately describing that to the consumer through that process. Stuart, if someone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way that they can do that? Is there a website? Is it LinkedIn?
Well, yeah, we're making product. Nobody believes until they try. And if you go to blumaka.com, you can get our. We're making insoles. We're making insoles that world-class athletes, baseball players are wearing. We've come up with an insole innovation that's really fun. But if you just want to say, well, how good can 85% recycled foam be? Well, let me tell you, you don't have to teach a dog to eat a steak, and you're going to like it because it's going to last. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to be durable. So you can go to blumaka.com and find our product, get a hold of me. And, a lot of people have and are doing this, but I think that's the biggest misnomer about recycled product, that somehow it's junk or trash or you can't perform in it. That's just not true. Call up the great testing lab over here in Santa Barbara, Helix. They've tested a ton of our foam products, insoles, midsoles. We can compete with anything. I guess my joke is we just can't perform as poorly as most EVA.
Okay. Stuart, man, thanks for joining us on this latest edition of Shoe and Show. We always enjoy hearing from you and your great perspective about what's happening in the footwear industry and calling things out, both good and bad, and where things are headed. And appreciate the work you're doing and the product and what you're trying to do, because I think that'll what you're doing around that new manufacturing process, supply chain process, is helping kind of build a new pathway for the footwear industry. And there's other companies doing it as well. And it's positive to see that that's happening, but also that people aren't spinning it, right? We're all honest about what's happening around and what you're doing. You're honest with what's happening and trying to be ethical about that. And I like the point at the very start. It sums up the whole economic, social justice, sustainability, all that into one thing, just ethical, right? One simple word that describes how we all want to live and do business. So again, thank you. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. It's always good to be with the Footwear Cognoscente, and I appreciate it, and appreciate what you're doing to drive the footwear industry forward. And, ethical products can only be sold in an ethical marketing way, or ethical marketing can only sell ethical products. And it all has to tie together, and that goes to leadership and values. And I think that Martin Luther King was right. The arc of justice bends in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, folks, shoeandshow.com is the website. You can see all the great episodes we have. Go back in and listen to all the other episodes we have of Leaders and Experts. Drop us a line if you have questions about the show today, or if for some reason you can't find Stewart on LinkedIn. You should definitely follow him on LinkedIn. He's got some very interesting videos about how his insoles provide it's anti-slip, which is really interesting. I've got a pair on right now, which are super comfortable, by the way. So he's right about that. But again, if you want to drop us a line as well, it's info@fdra.org. And of course, as always, we do have a very robust working group around sustainability, around supply chains, around sourcing, all that tied into ethics and not just legality, but best practices in our industry. And we're here to help the industry as they continue to improve in all these different facets. So on behalf of Matt and myself and the team at FDRA, thanks again. Until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.